Morning. This is Dr. Mary Braun Bates. This is not personal medical advice, nor is this the opinion of my employer. It is simply such a beautiful morning that I threw my shoes on and rushed out here to film it for you. I've been thinking for a while that I need to talk more about driving and dementia. And it's really a topic that, it's such a difficult topic. I've been procrastinating, shall we say, about it. But this morning it was so beautiful, I felt like I really needed to stop procrastinating and get myself out here to do it. Look how beautiful the trees are. All right, so I think I'm just going to focus this way and we can watch the pink fade out as the sun rises. So, driving when your elderly relatives are starting to lose their memory and you are starting to get worried about their driving, of course, the time to start is well before you're worried, so that they just get used to you talking about their driving. If they are thinking, well, if you start early enough, you're going to say, Mom, you've mentioned that you're worried about your memory, and I'm worried about it too, and I'm worried that there's going to be a day someday when you can't drive. And if you're early enough, your mom is likely to say, I know, I'm worried about that too, and I just can't stop driving because I can't live independently without driving. And then you can say, but I'll drive you where you need to go, or maybe you'll have to move to a place that's closer to town so you can walk to the grocery store. But we will make it work, Mom. Once you are not safe to drive, you really can't drive because, and then you pull the line out that I used last time, obviously I don't want anything to happen to you, but if you were to have a car accident and hurt someone else, or God forbid, kill someone else, that would really ruin the rest of your life. And if you are early enough, your mom is going to say, yeah, I know, you're right. And I do this with my patients all the time, and the ones that I know I don't need to worry about respond that way, or they say, I'm worried about that, so what I do is I only drive to your house, the library, the grocery store, the doctor's office, and the post office, and I only do that, and the drugstore, and I only drive to those places during non-rush hours and when the weather is good and when the streets are clear and when there's daylight. And that can continue for a long time. It's important to drive with your mom, or your dad, or your aunt, or your sibling, frequently, because they, this is a dynamic disease, and if at any point you feel unsafe, you really, that's really a time to talk with them more about it. By this point, by the time people seem unsafe when they're driving, they will often say things like, I would never have a car accident. When you pull out the line about, if you hurt someone else, they'll say, but I would never have a car accident. I would never hurt someone else. And that, of course, is a very worrisome response. But you can still have an honest conversation with them and say, I'm worried that you might, you drove across the yellow line, or you didn't notice the stop sign, or you were driving too fast on that road. They'll probably be pissed at you. But if you can have a good conversation about it, if you get lucky, and maybe if you have extra support, whatever, you can have a conversation that says, what about, what's the word I'm looking for? I hate it when this happens. By the way, this is a normal part of aging. This word finding difficulty, this happens to all of us as we get older. It does not mean that you are beginning to have the early signs of dementia. You could say, I'm not qualified to judge your driving. However, there is a service offered by, and in New Hampshire, there's one offered by um, Northeast Rehab. This is not a plug for Northeast Rehab, it's simply a mention of that's where the service is, which is a local acute rehab hospital. And it's run by occupational therapy, and they put a person in a simulator and watch them drive. And if they pass, then you no longer, then you agree. If you pass with drivability, I will no longer discuss your driving with you for pick a period of time that seems, good to you, a year maybe. If you don't pass, however, drivability, or whatever the name of the company is, will have to tell the DMV that you're not safe to drive. Or what the best result I've gotten from them is when they've said, here are the circumstances under which you are safe to drive. And that is so useful, because then it's not you saying, you can't drive after dark. It's them saying, it's best for you not to drive after dark. You're not safe if you drive after dark, or whatever. So those are my pieces of advice for approaching the problem head on. I am sure that people who have relatives with dementia have run into the problem that people with dementia often become angry because they just don't see the world the same way that you do, and they think you're being, like, I don't know, controlling and trying to ruin their life. It's kind of like being with an adolescent. And they become angry, and the good thing is oftentimes people with dementia don't remember these things. So you have this conversation, it's very unpleasant, you finish, you go on to something else. Maybe even when you plan to have this conversation, you plan to do it before something that is going to be fun and distracting. You have this conversation, and then, your granddaughter comes over and completely, or someone they adore comes over and completely distracts them. And then that, if they become angry, if they, if the conversation goes well, they can reinforce the conversation. If the conversation did not go well, they can distract the person, and hopefully they will not remember, and it won't be a thing the next time you talk with them. But these things are so hard. These things are so hard. Yeah. And the fact is, of course, your relationship is to some extent already changed if you are even considering the need to have these conversations. So, I admire everyone who's having these conversations. Of course, I'm running a whole army of friends and relatives and patients families through my brain right now, who I know have been valiantly, heroically struggling with these things. All right, you guys, I see you. All right, thanks for listening. You can see the pink is out of the sky. When was the moment that it left the sky? I don't know. I didn't see a moment when it left the sky. There's still a little hint of it, actually. Thanks for listening.